My guest is Debbi Barfoot, who is with Canadian Blood Services. I am so glad you came in today.
Thank you.
Because just a few months ago, I was a first-time blood donor. And I thought, wow, this was so easy. And I walked out feeling so good. So it's, I hate to say it's easy, but it is. There was nothing to it. And anybody who's saying, oh, gee, you know, I don't like needles. Honestly, even when they stuck that thing in my finger, I didn't feel it. I don't know how they do it, but they did. And
that's wonderful.
It's a wonderful system. I was a flat hour from the minute I walked out to the minute I walked out. It was a flat hour. And people are so pleasant. I can't say enough about it.
Well, thank you, first of all, for donating for the very first time. I mean, there's such a high number of new blood donors needed all across Canada.
Really? So
absolutely.
What, the old ones aren't cutting it anymore? Is that
well, we have such a great dedicated base of blood donors. For example, currently 230 new blood donors attend a clinic every day in Canada. We need to get that to 450. Oh. That's how many we need to keep up with our projected units collected. And we have a dedicated base of blood donors, but they cannot keep up with this higher pace. They can only donate so many times.
Exactly. You don't want to bleed us dry, literally.
That's right.
You really don't. But and I also believe that if you've been told 20 years ago, we don't want your blood, things have changed.
Absolutely. Eligibility requirements change all the time. So years ago, there was an upper age limit, for example. Just a few years ago, there was a 6-month rule if you had a tattoo or piercing. It's now 3 months. So the best thing to do, quite honestly, is always go to our website, blood.ca, and look at the eligibility requirements. And there's even changes to eligibility in the past year. So we've had some historic changes to eligibility, and it's always worth investigating. I also, this happened, the reason I had not donated before, I thought there was an age limit. Absolutely.
And there isn't.
And there was.
And there was at one time.
That's right.
And that stuck in my mind that there was, I'd heard that, and but no, you want tired old blood too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, all of the eligibility criteria is constantly researched and analyzed and reviewed over time. So changes are not made lightly. It does take a long time to change. The age restriction, I'm thinking it was well over 5 years ago that was lifted. There is a minimum age restriction, and that's 17.
Yeah, and that's reasonable. I get that. I get that, yeah. And then I think the most powerful moment was, so you fill out, you sit in front of a computer and you do a questionnaire, or you can do it at home, I guess, before you show up. And then they put you with somebody who kind of goes through your questionnaire with you. And she just very casually said, well, there's 3 things that we do. We take whole blood, platelets, and plasma. She said, in your case, we'll be using whole blood, so you saved 3 lives today. Wow.
It's powerful.
Whoa. Yeah, it was powerful.
It is powerful.
Wow.
It's a, whole blood. Canadian Blood Services manages not only Canada's blood system, stem cells, organ and tissue registration, platelets, plasma, part of your blood. We have volunteers all across Canada. We have financial donations, and that's why we're called Canada's Lifeline. The fact that when you do 1 unit of blood, and that unit of blood can save up to 3 lives, and it's a great way to give back, especially over the holiday season.
Well, money's tight for a lot of people, but here's a donation you can make, and you're not going to reach into your wallet to do it.
Yeah.
And it was nothing. I had no side effects. I had nothing. I went back to my usual routine, and they even feed you. And in my world, you feed me, I'm there.
That's perfect.
They give you a bag of chips and a soft drink, and my theory is that if you eat a bag of chips and it's for a good cause. There's no calories.
There you go.
That's my theory, and I'm sticking to that one. And then after, you sit and visit with other blood donors, and they feed you cookies and more juice. It's heck.
It's a great way to give back, and especially over the holiday season for those that are looking at ways to give back to the community. It is something that doesn't cost you any. There's no financial impact. It's really your time. And doing the research, go online and make sure you're eligible to donate, because there is some deferrals that you want to look into related to travel, for example. So you want to look into that. And then, you know, when you leave, I haven't met a blood donor yet that has left our clinic with a frown on their face. They feel fantastic.
It was, yeah, I can't really explain what it was, but I certainly, I stepped a little lighter somehow.
Absolutely.
And then you find out what your blood type is. And I got to admit, I didn't know.
You never knew.
I never knew, and it's A negative, so only 6% of the population has that. So now I feel really guilty that I had not got myself in there a little bit earlier and done this earlier. And you mentioned travel. Does it matter where you've traveled?
Yeah, I mean, if you've traveled to a high-risk malaria country, for example, there is a deferral in place because malaria is a risk. If you've left Canada or the US, there's a 3-week, 21-day wait from when you land. So on our website, you can actually go in by country to see what part, wherever you travel, to see if there's any deferral. For example, it's very specific. So parts of Mexico are fine, the tourist areas, but other parts, some of the rural areas, malaria is present, so there is a deferral involved.
Okay. So that still doesn't, it's a deferral, but only for a short period of time, and then
right. Well, the deferral, there's a 21-day if you leave the Canada or the U.S., but if you were in a malaria country for a long period of time, it can be a year.
Okay.
If you were there on a cruise ship and stopped for a day, that's a different story.
Okay.
So there's a lot of variables when it comes to travel.
Okay.
The same with medication.
Okay. So are there any? They say if you're on that medication, don't bother us because it's, you know, we're never going to want your blood. Are there any like that?
Well, it's all about your safety, really.
Okay.
It's all about your safety and patient safety. So there is a long list of acceptable medications on our site. People sometimes think, I'm on medicine, I cannot donate blood, which is not true. You really should look online and research. There's very high number of medications that are fine. And if you're not sure and you don't see it online, you phone our 1-800 number and say, I'd like to go over my medications. So it's about your safety. Obviously, if you're on a blood thinner, you're not going to donate blood because it's going to affect your personal health and safety. So there's a number of elements with that as well.
Okay. The people who receive donations.
Yes.
Leukemia, I know is one. Hemophilia.
Yeah.
They're the two that come to mind, but accidents, surgeries, trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's lots of blood disorders. These are patients. These are people, if there was a car accident on the 401 because of snowfall and black ice, and people are rushed into the hospital and there's, internal bleeding and all sorts of things, we're reaching for blood. They're reaching for blood in the emergency room. And that brings me to an excellent point, which is O-negative blood. There's always a need for O-negative blood because it's universal. It's the universal blood type. A very small percentage of the population in Canada have O-negative. However, it's the blood type that the emergency room is reaching for because it can be given to anyone in the hospital.
Right.
And in an emergency, they don't have time to test blood.
Yeah. What happens if they run out?
Well, I've never seen us run out. I've never seen hospitals run out. I have seen a call to action when there's a serious incident Years ago, there was a big incident in Toronto with the van attack.
Yes.
And when that occurred, the call went to us, and throughout all of Ontario, quite honestly, all over Canada, we need more blood in Toronto at this hospital. And we all pulled together to get the blood there.
So I think anybody, go on blood.ca. There's a video about what happens, and there's anything you want to know, it's on that. And I do ask you, for Christmas, please do this. It is, it's a really good experience. You'll want to go back again. You are literally saving lives, and only you can do it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Donna. Happy holidays.
Thank you.